Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Holley, a Maxwell Leadership facilitator and coach.
And I'm Goede, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. Before we get started, I want to encourage you, like we always do, if you want additional resources, we want you to go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. There you can click on this episode, and Perry has a learner guide that he's created to go along with the content. Or if you have a question or a topic for us that you'd love for us to discuss here, then you can fill out that form, send that in. We'd love to unpack that.
I'd love to unpack
that. And what's really great about that is a lot of what we talk about comes from the field.
Yes.
It comes from us being with organizations, with leaders, whether we're coaching or we're facilitating. And so we would love to do that for you.
Absolutely.
Today's topic is, can you coach your team to become change agents? Yeah. I love this. And I think I know the answer, but I think we'll save that to the end, to the wrap up, and we'll unpack this. But we've been recently talking about how leaders lead change. You've coming off of the end of last year, you created a content piece for us. By the way, if your team or your organization is going through change, we'd love to come in and help you work through that. You can put that in the form as well. Yep. And we'll get back in touch. And Perry's kind of helped us create that around a new course. So we're going to continue that today. And you asked the question in the title of, can you coach your team to become change agents? So should we just stop the podcast right here? Can you give them the answer, yes or no, or should we dive in?
We should probably dive in. But I have another question before we answer the question. The question behind the question was, why would you want to? Do you, aren't you the leader? What I'm finding in most of my coaching and working with leaders is that most people think you or someone above you is the one that's supposed to be looking for where we need to change. How can we grow, improve, incremental improvement, make wholesale changes? How is we going to disrupt status quo? But I'm thinking, shouldn't your team be doing that? But I think, do you want that? You got a big team. Do you want your people looking for ways to change and disrupt status quo?
100%. I was actually talking just this morning with a client that's a good friend of ours that we're very familiar with, and we were talking about change. And the first thing that came up was, hey, I got to make sure that I allow this and I give them grace for it, right? Because not everybody goes through change the same way. And so, but we do want them to look and to say, how do we improve our business? I was in a team meeting right before I came down here, and we were talking about the fact of, hey, you are closest to the problem. You are closer to the opportunities for improvement than I am. So what should we change? What should we do different? We were talking about a deliverable that they were like, well, it's not very good. Okay, well, what do we need to change about it that it would make it better and make it received well? So I would say 100% we want to encourage our team to be change agents, because they know what's happening, what's not happening in regards to what we're delivering to our customers.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Great answer. I think that it also makes the change you do undertake a lot easier if others feel like they have a voice in it, that you're not some, behind the curtain manipulating the levers and say, go change this, go change that. No, we should all be thinking about, how do we serve our clients better? How do we operate more efficiently? How do we drive more revenue? How do we cut more costs? Everyone needs to be acting like an owner in that. And so when I came up, I put this in the course that you mentioned, and about probably 7 or 8 ways that you can you coach your team? How would you start to do that? If you said, I want everybody, like you said, they're at the front lines. I want you thinking about, are we doing the best that we can do?
Yeah.
And is there a better way to challenge status quo? So I'll throw them out and we'll see what you think on that. And, one of the first one I put on there with coaching authenticity was, are you honest about the needs and the reasons for change? Just being real. Yeah. And, we joked a few weeks ago on here about John saying status quo is Latin for the mess we're in. And saying, yes, do people understand that? Or we just call it for real? We are doing okay, but are we doing the best that can be done?
Yeah.
And I stole that from Andy Andrews. Never forget him saying that. He said that people say we're doing the best we can do. And he said, but are we doing the best that can be done? Mm-hmm. The answer to that is always no, but are we real about it? Are we authentic?
Yeah. Well, with authenticity, and you've heard Perry and I talk about this, this comes from Greg Cagle, one of our executive facilitators that also is out on the front lines with us coaching and facilitating, where authenticity is a trust accelerator. And the key to any change is making sure your team trusts you. And it's tough, right? Because at times you're going to have to be authentic with people that have never been under your leadership before to create that trust. Right. Okay, that's one thing you got to think about. But the other thing is you got to be authentic with the people that know you really well as a leader, because, by the way, they're going to be able to see right through you. And so either way, you need to be authentic in order to grow the trust that you have, because I think that's the keys to change. So 100%, we need to be authentic, and we need to coach that in our people, and we need to model that.
Hey, John Maxwell here. I'm in the studio. We've been recording all day. And I was thinking about really one of my very favorite experiences that we have, and that is called Day to Grow. If you want to grow, you want to grow in every area of your life. I tell people all the time, you don't want to go to something, you want to grow to something. But if you're passionate about personal growth, development, your team, and growing them, you do not want to miss Day to Grow. I'm going to have some real players with me. Deion Sanders, Jamie Kern-Lima, myself. Oh my gosh, you don't want to miss it. So mark it. Come and see us on Day to Grow. I will promise you this. You come and bring your team, and at the end of the day, you'll come up and shake my hand and say, one of the best days I've ever invested in for myself and for my team. I'll see you there.
Number 2 that you have for us here is coach communication. And this is always, the word communication can be so diverse when it comes to leadership challenges. We're talking about it specifically here in Change, and it's interesting that all the companies that you and I have worked with, and Maxwell Leadership gets the opportunity to serve around the world, we always say, hey, let's talk a little bit. Let's figure out what is wrong. And communication is always in a top 3 part. I would say this is essential when it comes to change, is to make sure that we're doing a good job of communicating and involving those that are going through the change, involving them very early on in the process. So a couple of things I wrote down here, so how do you do that? How do you go about doing that? Ask good questions, right? We John wrote a book about asking questions. And so it is essential as you're leading people through change and communicating that you're asking questions. Hey, what would you do if you were me in this situation? Again, going back to, they're on the front lines. They know the changes that should be made, probably more so than you. You may know some changes need to be made from a bigger picture, but you got to ask them questions. Have you seen this change in the past where you've worked before, or have you seen it implemented differently? You need to be able to ask questions and communicate early on in the process of change. They also need to know, this is the last thing I wrote down here, which they need to know that this change is going to be good for them and for the organization. Key word, going to be. It may not feel like it in the moment, but you've got to be able to communicate that to them. And so you got to have your team and you got to coach them on communication.
I think having that is part of communication. It's part of how it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to share about. We do change. We're looking for change. We're trying new things. We want to continue to grow and move in a positive direction. We cannot stand still.
That's right.
That status quo. To do that kind of leads into number 3, which is coaching collaboration. Is that, can you increase the share of voice in the communication? So much of what I'm seeing is in the field is that most of the communication around change is coming from the leader or the leader's leader, and it's not involving the people on the front line. So we've taught here over the years about increasing share of voice in the things that we do. Are we including the voice of the people closest to the action? One thing I just learned in the last year doing the generational diversity stuff we've done, Tim Elmore taught us this, and I've been teaching it a lot lately because it really has rocked my thinking on how I invite others into the conversation. Is Tim would say it's a little combination of words that help me remember it. It says, describe, don't prescribe.
Yeah.
And I just love this as saying my whole MO has always been, I'm going to write you the prescription. Do this, then do that, then do this and that, and report back to me. And then people aren't bought in. They don't know what to do. They don't know why. The communication is poor. Tim says, describe the big picture. What are we trying to accomplish? And let them prescribe how to get there to do that.
That's good.
I love this. Now I can say, I don't have to. I do have a point of view. You know,
Sure you do. Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to describe. Here's the big picture. Here's the puzzle. Can you help me fill in these pieces? How would you do it? And now I've increased share of voice. People are starting to lean into change is a very common thing around here. We talk about it. We communicate it. We're authentic. We're real. And now I can coach that everybody on my team knows. I'm expecting you to help me describe, to build the prescription for the description we put out there.
Through that process, your point of view probably changed a little bit.
Yeah,
it probably improved.
I hope so.
You hope so, right?
Yeah.
You have the right people around the team. Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, number 4, coach a mindset around change and how you think about it and how you talk about it. I'll never forget, we talk often here at Maxwell Leadership about, I think that we are a leadership organization. We could be called a change organization, right? And with our founder, John, who is always thinking and challenging processes and new opportunities, it's just part of our culture and it's part of things. And so Mark Cole came to a leadership meeting about 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago now, and I'll never forget. And I talk about this whenever I can when we're going through some change. He said, I really look at this as people that have 3 different types of mindset, 3 different ways that people act or are or have this mindset around change. Number 1, they're change resistors, right? They're like, no, we're not doing this. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in weeks to come, right? No. They cross their arms. We ain't doing that. Right. Then you have the change empathizers, which this is dangerous as well, because what they do is they empathize with people that disagree with the change, and then it makes all of a sudden, it's like rowing the boat when we talk about team engagement. All of a sudden, the empathizers are in the back of the boat and they're trying to get the people in the middle of the boat to come to the back of the boat, right? And they begin to, oh yeah, no, I feel that same way, versus not necessarily not rowing whatsoever. Yeah. And then the third one he talks about, and this is again mindset, type of people have mindset, is, are you a change agent? And when I was reviewing kind of the notes leading into what you have brought to us today in regards to content, I was like, oh, this is perfect right here around mindset. What is your mindset when it comes to change? Are you a resistor? Are you an empathizer? Or, to Perry's point and how we started with the question today, can you coach your team to become a change agent? So are you a change agent? Are you coaching that? Use those 3 words in your next team meeting and ask them where they are. And then challenge them. You want to get their eyes open and their lens around becoming a change agent.
Yeah, I love that, and it really is the mindset that we are all on the lookout for. How we grow and improve. Number 5 could you coach the vision, painting a picture of the future? Are you the only one that's thinking about a picture of the future? Then that's a problem, because John talks often about, if you're the smartest one in the room, everybody looks at you that you're the smartest one in the room. You're probably in the wrong room. And so how do I get everybody on my team to be adapting to the vision and adding to the vision? And perhaps maybe there's things they see that I don't see. So helping others adopt some ownership of the vision, so that they'll think, well, we're never going to get there from here doing this. Yes. So what do we need to change to go there?
Yeah.
And once they own the vision and speak into the vision, if you're coaching that and really setting an expectation, I need you to have this mindset. I need you to collaborate. I need you to communicate. I need you to be authentic. And all these things we've talked about so far, all of a sudden people start raising their head up and saying, you know what we could do? We could really improve in this area by doing it. And then they bring you new stuff.
And tying that and what they're doing to that bigger vision, which we talk about, this is from a leadership perspective, making sure that they understand how that plays into the bigger picture of what they're doing. Number 6 you have for us here is coach planning, right? The planning process. This is, I've worked for leaders before to where it is, hey, we're just going to start firing, and all those things are changes, versus, hey, let's aim and then we're going to fire, which would come where you're saying, which is, let's talk about this from a planning perspective. So how do we achieve the results that we desire from the change? And you talked a little bit about it just a minute ago, talking about, hey, let's describe it. Let's talk about where we're going. Let's not just come in and say, this is what we're going to do and prescribe it. So it made me think a little bit back to an incredible book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, probably John's most popular book. If you haven't read it for self-development, I want to encourage you to do that. But in there, he laid out this acronym in the law of navigation where it's plan ahead, and there's an acronym. And I'm just going to go through this really quick, because I think I went back and I looked at it and I thought, man, this is not only in regards to leadership and leading a business, but this is, I think, perfect for change as well as what we're talking about. So as he lays this out, this acronym, just real quick, the P in plan says predetermine the course of action. Okay. You know where you need to go as a leader. Now you want to describe that. You want to get feedback from them. But what is the course of action? The L is lay out the goals. What are we trying to accomplish? The A, this is key, adjust the priorities. Isn't it true that a lot of people that go through change, they want to keep the priorities that they had in everyday business, and then, oh, we're going to change, and now we want to add these to your priorities. Right. And all of a sudden you go from 4 to 12 priorities versus, hey, that's everything's important. The N in the word plan, notify key personnel. This is an area, if I'm being transparent, that sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself and don't think about this. I think I could do a better job of this. We need to notify key personnel of the change. Now, as we move into the word ahead, in A, he says, allow time for acceptance. People are only going to change at the capacity of which they're going to change. And so we have to allow that. We need to know our people. We need to lead people the way they need to be led, even through change. Some of them, and you can think of some people on our team, it takes a little bit of time for some change. Others are like, I'm all in, let's go. And so you need to be able to do that. The H in ahead is, man, let's head into action. We've talked about it. We talked about the change. Now let's go. The E is expect problems. We know that's going to happen. The A is always point to successes. Along the way, let's celebrate the little wins because change is hard. And let's make sure that we're doing that. And then finally, the D is daily plan. Back to your point, right? Coach planning. We need to get to a point where maybe even daily we're changing our plan and digging into that a little bit there. And
I'm hearing Andy Stanley in my head saying, the vision doesn't really change, but the plan can change daily. And you need to be okay with that. Somebody, well, I got a plan, I can't change. No, it can. We need to have planning on that. Another thing about planning is I really have gotten to where I expect everybody on my team. I set an expectation. You need to come with a point of view about how we're going to execute these things. I have a point of view. I want you to have a point of view. I receive that from them to know that they're making a contribution.
That's good.
Number 7 was coaching influence. This is a huge piece of how we teach leadership. But you're just going to be more successful with change if everybody on the team is developing their influence with others. You're not going to be successful with change if people are not bought in because they're questioning either your motive, you haven't thought through, you haven't planned, you don't have influence with me. And the more people have influence, every member of the team should be developing their influence with their peers, with their boss, with their subordinates. They should be looking at, and we have many, many lessons on that. We can't go into that now, but I just think that influence is often overlooked in how we execute change. And it really makes things a lot smoother. If I'm, like you said, we have some people on our team go, yeah, let's go. They're bought in. Why? Because you have influence with them. And when you say it, they go, yeah, I believe Chris he's communicated, he's done these things, I'm in. Some others maybe don't have that level of influence. Right. Now they're going to say, what? Do what? Right. And they question that.
Which is why the foundation of everything that we work with in organizations is built off of the 5 levels of leadership. It's not your title, right? It's have you gone through the different levels? And as Perry said, we've talked about, this is what this podcast is completely built off of, is everything that we do kind of ties back, does tie back into that. 8, what you have for us, number 8 here, and the last one is coach leading by example. This is where, there's no doubt that you want the team to work together. You want them to help each other through the change. You want them to add value to this. So what does that look like? I would say this, for me, when I think about this, is when I coach by leading through example through changes, I go back to the word I used just a minute ago about vulnerability, right? Take time to talk about, what are you feeling personally as a leader about the change? What are you learning? What are you thinking about it? It may, if I can say this, it may just suck at times, right? It may. And you need to communicate that and lead by example, and you're gonna open up that line of communication, but about what you're learning, and people are gonna share in the dynamics of that. And so I think as a leader, it's key to make sure that you do that. You go first.
Yeah, and the bottom line for all of this, and these 8 things are probably more, but just thinking through, are the people on my team, do they feel ownership on our direction toward our vision and how we're trying to execute and deliver value to our clients, all these types of things? It can't just be on you. And so can you coach this idea that everybody's responsible and knows the status quo is dangerous? Everybody's responsible for helping us move to the next to the future.
Yeah. And this is a huge topic. It's why Perry spent a good bit of time last year digging in and developing this content, because it is relevant to every organization that we're working with, and they're asking for it. It's very practical.
We're trying to make it practical.
It's not, we're not going to get very philosophical and lots of no, this is like, what does this look like? Yeah. If you're listening to us by now, you know the fact that we're not very. So here's my answer to the question. You absolutely can coach your team to become change agents. And if you are inspiring the vision and you're cultivating a growth mindset in your team and you're going through it together, there are going to be times that change may catch you or other people off guard, but you want them looking for opportunities for change and having conversations around it. If you communicate, if you support, and you lead by example, I absolutely think that you can coach them to become a change agent.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Chris. Always appreciate the insights. Just a reminder, if you'd like to learn more about the offerings on change or anything that we offer, you can do that, as well as get the learner guide. Leave us a question or a comment. Do all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. We love hearing from you, and we're very grateful you spend this time with us. That's all today from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.